Is there any way you could touch on the general subject of why people are the way they are? I know we all have certain conditioning that primes us to behave the way we do, but could you just touch on what motivates human behavior? Is why people do bad things or hurt others? Sure, Megan. Well, it's only this body's idea. Like, it's not truth, obviously. Like, what I say isn't fact. I think you know that. Don't know why I said that. But it's only my conclusion, this body-mind's conclusion, which ultimately is the word of God. But everybody's word of God is, even somebody that's sitting there like, shit, bugger, fuck this, I hate life, everything is the word of God. But so this is just my perception of what's happening. Is the reason that people behave the way they do is well, it's quite complex, that answer. It's not something I can just touch on. But so first of all, the primary functioning of humanity is to survive. And we've kind of, it's like a rock, like being shaped by the ocean. So our survival has kind of been shaped by everything that we've touched upon in this life, which is really beautiful. And it's kind of carved out this behavior of humanity. So that's our primary motivation for everything. And then what we've got next to that is this ability to have complex thinking. And then what's happened in most of humanity is they've identified with complex thinking. So all the other animal world, they're not identified with being the body. They don't think I'm a body and I'm a good person or I'm a bad person. They just are, and they're responding to the environment, whereas humanity identifies with that. And then once you identify with that, there becomes these very complex and weird thought processes that go on. So you get all these like layers on top of your initial impulse. I don't think so bad action doesn't necessarily come from identification. So if there was a war now and people were going to war and fighting, more than likely, in general, I wouldn't participate. But if I was here and somebody was, say, torturing my loved ones or anyone in front of me, I would participate, and maybe I could kill. Like, maybe I could kill somebody I think I could if they were killing people around me. So I don't think that, I think that's a very animal reaction as well, like a very basic animal reaction. And I think if I was starving, I could also steal as well. So I think that there is like a basic human behavior that's not to do with identification. And then you get the identification, you get all this seeking, and then you get all these bizarre behaviors that come on top of seeking. And there's like all different varieties of it, but it all happens in similar patterns, which is super fascinating. So as to why people do bad things, and harmful and hurtful things, is it tends to be either in the moment you lose control. So you're identified and you're having an argument with someone, you lose control and you sort of kill them, you know, you hit them really hard or something, you just lose your temper and you shoot them if you have a gun or whatever it is, and it's not premeditated. And that is one crime, like you lose control of yourself. And the same with saying hateful things. You kind of lose control of yourself and you just stir it out of your mind in the anger. And the extent of that anger, I would say, comes from separation. So that intensity of that anger or that hatred comes from separation. But it's an in the moment thing. And then when that emotions calm down, you regret what you've done. So there's that. Then you get this other type of behavior, which is premeditated, and which is what our society would define as evil. But there's no body that's evil. There's just action that you could maybe define as evil, but on the ultimate level, there is no good and bad. But it comes from being separate, and then it's a premeditation. And that is basically all those things, like all the bad things that you could do, and you premeditate it. So getting power over someone, being better than someone, putting other people down to make yourself feel better, taking things from people in a premeditated way, not as in like stealing, but premeditated as in trying to get power or trying to get revenge, or not doing it out of desperation, but doing it out of a form of nastiness, taking life, raping, torturing people, all these types of things, these premeditated things, and they tend to be about the person feeling powerless and then trying to get power. So I'm not talking about torture that's doing it for a government that's instructed to do it. I'm talking about an individual that does these things in order to obtain power to feel better about yourself. And then I think that behavior, when you're identified, happens so that happens in the personalities that have more or less empathy. So if you have less empathy, you'll have more of a tendency towards that behavior. If you have more empathy, you'll find it hard to stomach that type of behavior. And people do it in all types of ways, consciously and unconsciously. So it can be in passive aggression, can be in giving people a silent treatment or trying to make people feel guilty. There can be such a variety of it. I remember when I was like, I'll give you an example of doing something like on this evil scale, and I don't know how much I do this, but it could be unconscious that I do things like this now, but I don't know if I do. But I remember when I was 7 years old, and because of my dyslexia, I got sat like on the dunce table, and then I got sat next to the girl that nobody liked, who was difficult in class, and I was really fed up that I had to sit on this table and next to this girl that wasn't very nice and was kind of a reject from class, which isn't nice that happened to her. And I remember I was feeling angry, and I rocked the table, and I could see this. She had this pencil case that she really liked, and it was made of plastic, but it was hard plastic. And I rocked the table purposely so it fell off, and then it fell off and it smashed on the floor. And then I felt rotten. Like that's premeditated, like evil behavior, and I felt really rotten that I did that. And we do this often, like, so we'll set people up, or humans will set people up, like, and then they'll stab at them with nasty comments, or they'll just do things to make the other person feel bad, like do things maybe to get your partner jealous. Like all of these are more premeditated things, and it predominantly comes from lack of empathy, and it's wanting to get power. And that wanting to get power is different from survival power. It's like a seeking power, because we'll do that in nature, like we'll try and overcome our environment in order to survive. So it's different from that. It's like this other premeditated, based on your ego power, like based on your separate self, like it's you as a separate person trying to get power for you to become more mighty as an image of yourself. And this is where humans like fuck each other up. My God. And I think people do this a lot in relationships, like not consciously, like doing passive aggressive things, trying to dominate people with violence, putting people down, beating people, and like relishing in the other person like failing, like not enjoying your own success but relishing, like look at you fuck up, like trying to. And this is all about image of self, and you trying to have this conflated image, and we can all feel it. We know it from storytelling that it's this evil kind of trying to get power. It's not like a gorilla like beating its chest that looks after its family and is like, this is my land for my family. It's like, that's a beautiful kind of power where it's like, rah, and I would give up my life to save my family. It's not that kind of power. It's like this power. It's like this ego fake power that's like hurting another in order to feel powerful. It's like a weak form of power. And I think that we infect each other with it, because, you know, we do it to each other. Like a mother will, if a mother has a really attractive daughter, will then put the daughter down or make the daughter feel small because they feel insignificant. Or the dad that's afraid of the son becoming stronger than him will put the son down in order for them to feel better about themselves. But this happens a lot in society, I think, and it's so damaging to be in these scenarios for each other. It's so damaging, and it's rarely acknowledged in society. And it all comes from being separate, this type of behavior. And it's like habits of separation and being in a separate society. And our society is kind of based on it. Like a lot of our humor is based on this, like putting other societies down, putting other cultures down. We are better. Yeah. So that's my perspective on that. I don't know if I answered your question. Thank you for your question. And the solution to it, because we should always be solution-based, is empathy and understanding yourself, like understanding why you act and seeing if your action is coming from expansion or it's coming from contraction, because doing evil things to each other, doing nasty things to each other normally always comes from contraction, and it doesn't benefit you. It makes you feel worse in the long run. It's like a fake power lift. It's not expansive. So the solution is coming by knowing who you are on the ultimate level, that you aren't a thing, and then also just becoming conscious of your motivations on the human level and seeing that the way in which life moves is, or the way in which a healthy life moves is moving towards that which is expansive, like love, beauty, not towards that which is contracted and dark.